If you watch movies long enough, you're bound to start noticing what's commonly referred to as a that guy. That guys tend to be character actors that usually play smaller roles or appear at least as co-stars in bigger movies. A lot of people forget that Terry Crews was once a that guy.
What?
After he finished with football, he went in to do bit parts in movies where he was either the ridiculously intimidating black guy or the hilariously spastic comedic black guy. A lot of them appear in films as thugs. Guys like Erwin Keyes, Marco Rodriguez, Thomas Rosales Jr., and Danny Trejo have been getting shot and beat up by action heroes for years. A lot of the time, we want to see that guy in more shit, because sometimes the side characters or even background characters in films end up being more charismatic and show-stealing than the damn star. Case in point, giving Danny Trejo a lot of machetes and making a fucking movie about it. But that's just one example. What happens when your entire film is comprised of Hollywood's very best that guy actors? Well, first off, who are some of Hollywood's very best that guys? And Nick Nolte. Is he actually a that guy? I don't know. Wasn't he like sexiest man alive one time? And then then that happened to him. Well, he's a that guy now. Extreme Prejudice is a badass movie. I wish that's all I could say, but I mean, I haven't done a review in like 84 billion years, and I'm pretty sure you guys want this to be a little bit longer. So it's a badass film. But why? Well, fuck it. You're on YouTube, you're watching me. Let's go into detail. Well, for starters, it's directed by Walter Hill. This guy directed and produced some of the all-time greats of badass cinema, like Hard Times, The Driver, The Warriors, 48 Hours, and Streets of Fire, and was a producer on both the original Alien and Aliens. He also directed some of the all-time best episodes of Tales from the Crypt. The man has an amazing eye for action and vivid color. Films like The Warriors and Streets of Fire are testaments to that. The colors, the shadows, it's like watching a living EC comic, and it's fucking fantastic. Okay, so honestly, that's pretty good. We could probably even just move on from there. But if I don't mention that Extreme Prejudice was written by John fucking Milius, that would be grounds to kick me off the fucking planet. This man is a staple of all your favorite movies. Yes, you. Sitting there right now and watching this. I know you love Dirty Harry. I know that you love Conan the Barbarian and Red Dawn and Apocalypse Now. Seriously, those might be the most quoted movies of not only the 70s or the 80s, but of all fucking time.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
So if you've got A, Walter Hill, B, John Milius, and C, a sack full of the most awesomely entertaining, charismatic, badass motherfuckers in the form of character actors that Hollywood has likely ever had to offer, is it as amazing as it sounds? Well, to put it completely blunt, I'd rather be watching it again than shooting a review for it. Extreme Prejudice is a simple tale. Former best friends now conflicted in their differing life paths. One, a man of the law. The other, a drug runner. Jack, a Texas Ranger, wants his old buddy Cash to cut out the drug dealing, especially since it's been seeping across the border. The more Cash's shit seeps across the border into Texas, the more it becomes Jack's obligation to take his old friend down, which he doesn't want to do. Cash, on the other hand, wants Jack to drop the whole lawman cowboy routine and join him in Mexico to live like drug kings. At the same time, a top-secret military mission led by Major Hackett is being put into play. It's a bank heist in Texas, right in Ranger Jack's neck of the woods. Hackett's men are in deep cover, all reported as killed in action. They're after Cash's stash. Major Hackett has intel that Cash has bank connections due to being a former snitch for the DEA. He parlayed what he knew into his current drug empire. And while all of that is happening, there's some time for some romantic triangle conflict shit. Ranger Jack is romantically involved with Cash's old flame, Sarita, played by the always awesome Maria Conchita Alonso. She does what she does best. She plays a highly passionate, sassy as all fuck Mexican chick, which perfectly offsets Nick Nolte's character, because she's always wanting to get all emotional and talk about feelings and shit, which never works out, seeing as Jack hates feelings because he can't shoot them. Now, just about any other film would play this nice, straight, narrow, and middle of the road. But just remember all the other shit I said earlier. The brunt of the military team just so happened to be most of the awesome that guy actors that I mentioned before. You've got William Forsythe being a loudmouth little creep, Clancy Brown being a total badass, and of course, Michael Ironside is in charge, which I think speaks for itself. The rest of the team is comprised of other that guy actors that I didn't bother to mention before because I was lazy and I wanted to do it later. And it just so happens that later is now. Sergeant Biddle is Larry B. Scott. You might remember him from Karate Kid or pretty much all of the Revenge of the Nerds movies. Sergeant Coker is Matt Mulhern. He was in Biloxi Blues, appeared regularly on Major Dad, and still does a bunch of TV work. Sergeant Fry is Dan Tullis Jr. He's made appearances in stuff like The A-Team, Married with Children, and is the voice of Select Quote Insurance. I don't know if the insurance thing is even worth mentioning, but it's kind of random, so why the hell not? And of course, Marco Rodriguez. Who's Marco Rodriguez? Well, if you need to ask yourself that, you are only just now beginning to plummet down the never-ending rabbit hole of trash film addiction. In Extreme Prejudice, he plays a deputy for Nick Nolte's character, but you'll usually see him playing thugs that get shot to shit by the likes of Sly Stallone. The best example of this can be found in the extensive Cobra files. There's all kinds of crazy awesome shit in there.
I'm a hero of the new world.
You're a disease, and I'm the cure.
Die! Drop it!
He gets a whole clip emptied into him, and then the knife comes. That's some fucking macho shit. You know what else is macho? Extreme Prejudice. Let's talk about it a bit. Everything in this film is manly as all ridiculous fuck. If watching any of the following clips happen to offend you, that's a good thing. It means you're finally being injected with much-needed testosterone to build some much-needed character, you fucking sissy-ass wimpy bitch. We are bombarded by the army of Chris's, let's face it. The Chris Evans, the Chris Hemsworth, the Chris Pine, the never disheveled, never sweating, perfect blonde hair action hero. Are you getting sick of this shit? Because I sure the fuck am. Extreme Prejudice is the action era of badass motherfuckers doing badass shit and actually looking like they're going through the badass shit because they're sweating balls and look goddamn tired, but they keep pressing on because they're real heroes and real human beings. Case in point, John McClane, Rambo, and pretty much any given Bruce Willis and Stallone character. I miss seeing the protagonists get all beat up while they're in action because it makes seeing them win in the end feel all the more satisfying. It makes the events of the film feel that much more against every odd and dangerous. Just look at how sweaty Michael Ironside is in like every fucking scene. He's glistening. That's some genuine Texas and Mexican heat beating the ever-loving shit out of him. And look at how we're introduced to the bad guy, Cash Bailey. He's just playing with a scorpion like it's nothing, and it's quite clearly a real scorpion. The movie is just straight up telling you that you're a little bitch, and you need some Nick Nolte to save your bitch ass. All right, let's watch a couple of uninterrupted clips from the film because, honestly, I'm getting tired of myself, And the dialogue in Extreme Prejudice is fucking amazing.
Jack Benteen, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, big son of a bitch, ain't he?
You thinking about taking him on?
Might be fun. Always did hate cops.
Scotch, single malt.
No, thank you.
What, you don't drink whiskey?
I'm particular who I drink with.
Oh, hell, I've known Chubb since the 3rd grade. You were just telling me what a nice kid he used to be.
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna go in and have a beer with him.
Shit, sounds reasonable. Just sit down and talk to him about how you shot his brother night before last.
Where I come from, we don't take to no nigger faggots calling us no asshole.
You calling me a nigga faggot?
I don't see any other nigger faggots behind you there, brother. I guess I am calling you a nigger faggot, huh?
Hunky piece of shit.
This feels really familiar.
Big Leroy, a 350-pound bull nigger faggot.
Can you spell that?
Someday, I knew it was all gonna come crashing back down to that.
Faggot. Nigger faggot.
And the movie is called Extreme Prejudice to boot. You can't write irony that good.
Nigger faggot!
Everything about this movie is just plain fantastic. It really is a true example of an action film done right. I love the camaraderie that the military team have with each other. You really get the sense that these guys are close and looking out for one another. When fuck-ups happen, when someone dies, when a double cross is sensed, they pull together and are there for each other until the bitter end without any shortage of ultimate machismo greatness. Not every movie needs this level of manliness, of course. I'm just saying it needs to be embraced when it's an action film. When I watch an action film, I want to see ass-kicking regardless of who's starring in it. I love watching the likes of Sigourney Weaver, Linda Blair, Cynthia Rothrock, or Linda Hamilton kicking ass just as much as I love watching Stallone, Red Brown, Arnie, Lorenzo Lamas, the list goes on. And hey, you know what? I do like my share of sensitive actors. I'm a real sucker for Ryan Gosling, all right? But fucking at least when it comes to the mainstream action stuff, it's too pretty and it's not gnarly enough. It just, you don't see it in mainstream action movies anymore, except for maybe John Wick. But that's if you get lucky. Seeing produced by Mario Casar and Andrew Vanya was like a seal of quality approval. If you were a kid in the 80s and 90s watching action flicks and shit, then you should remember seeing their names attached to all the best shit. Like seriously, just those 4 are some of the quintessential films of pure badassery. The music in Extreme Prejudice was composed by the late great Jerry Goldsmith, another name that again was attached to many of the amazing action films of yesteryear, like First Blood and Total Recall. He also might quite possibly be my favorite film score composer of all time. I often listen to the Rambo 2 score to get amped up and ready for the day. Jerry Goldsmith and Walter Hill almost ended up working together on what has arguably become Ridley Scott's most iconic film, Alien. Hill was originally set to direct, but was impressed with Ridley Scott's work in 1977's The Duelists and decided to give him the project. And Goldsmith technically did do the score for the film, but Ridley and editor Terry Rawlings weren't happy with his final product and made changes to it, going as far as splicing in segments from an earlier Goldsmith score, 1962's Freud. Goldsmith held a grudge against Ridley and Terry for that all the way to his death in 2004. Quite a long time to be pissed about something, but looking at it from the perspective of someone that creates graphic work, I fucking hate it when people tinker with my shit too. It's fucking insulting. I often wonder how different Alien would be if it did end up being directed by Walter Hill as originally planned. I'm sure Hill would have loved Goldsmith's score too. It likely would have been a lot more like the sequel Aliens, like 7 years before that even came out. Ironically enough, though, Hill ended up being one of the writers and producers of Aliens. So, back on point. If you haven't seen Extreme Prejudice, see it. If you've already seen it, see it again. That's more than likely what I'm about to do. Right after I go listen to some Goldsmith, pump some weights, and get nice and sweaty. If you wish to support me monetarily, the email for my PayPal is in the description below. Also, I have merch now. Want a Cine-Masochist t-shirt? How about a hat? 1201beyond.com is the place for you. And while you're there, be sure to catch me on Radiodrome with Josh Hadley and Cecil from Good Bad Flicks. You can also support Perturbator, the groovy motherfucker that created my theme song, and other talented bastards on bloodmusic.com. All can be found in the description below. What are you waiting for? You have everything to lose, and I have everything to gain.
And it's always keep you back to the sun, and you can almost feel the weight of that gun. It's faster than snakes or the blink of an eye, and it's a time for all slow men to die. His eyes get squinty and he's straight as a log as he empties his gun at the dirty dog. And he's hit by the smell of the black powder smoke and the stand in the street at the turn of a joke.